to lesson 26 about verb analysis. We're going to be looking at kinds of verbs with this lesson. We're on page 96 of the American Way, the AIOS Handbook. And this is a part of verb grammar that doesn't get studied often in Thailand. In America, we look at the types of verbs very often. In fact, at school, this is what we mostly learn about verbs. Because native speakers already understand the different verb tenses, we don't spend much time on that. In school, we learn about types of verbs. And as you can see from the book, they are linking, action, and helping. Let's look at each of these kinds of verbs individually. The first kind is linking. And a linking verb is usually a form of the verb to be. Now, to be can take many forms. You probably learned at school that to be can be is, or are, or was, or were. There's many forms of to be. And these are usually linking. So if you look at the example sentence, the first one, our boss is a very nice person. So the subject is boss, then a linking verb is, and then it's describing what he is. He's a very nice person. So the is links the subject to the adjective description. Very nice. And of course he's a person. So if you look at the next example, my grandmother seems sad today. So she seems. When you look at her, she seems sad. You have the subject, then you have the linking verb, and then you have the adjective. In this case, sad. Grandmother seems sad. You could also use is if you know for sure she is sad. My grandmother is sad. That would also be a linking verb. So linking verbs connect the subject to the adjective or noun that is the same as that subject. So look at the last one. He was a lawyer. So past tense of to be. He was a lawyer. He's not a lawyer anymore. Past, finish action. And it's describing a noun, what he was. He was a lawyer. Linking. So in a linking sentence, part 1 and part 2 with the verb in the middle are really the same thing. He was a lawyer. He and lawyer are the same. My grandmother seems sad. The sad and grandmother go together. They're the same. You look at her, you see sadness. The first one, our boss is a very nice person. The boss is a nice person. They're the same thing. It links two ideas together that match each other. Now, an action verb is very different. An action verb is something that is action, something you do. You eat, you run, you hit, you throw. It's an action that you can do. So look at the examples. Tom wrote a story. The staff went to the meeting. The plane left 10 minutes late. 3 verbs, all action. Writing, going, and leaving. But these verbs are in the past tense. They're all finished action. Wrote, went, left. Now these are just some examples. There's thousands of action verbs. In fact, most of the verbs in English are action. They describe what you do. So they're very easy to find. The hard kind of verb is helping. This is the most difficult, both to find and to understand, because a helping verb gives extra grammar information. Grammar information. And this is what you will spend years and years studying. All the different verbs that tell time, tell cause, that tell when something's happening, why it's happening. You might have watched lessons of mine where I talk about speaking verbs, and I have a list that tell about ability, tell about cause, tell about probability. These are all told by helping verbs. If you look in the book at the examples, the first one is the criminal has been stealing the money. Has been is the helping verb. The criminal has been stealing the money. It tells the time. He has been. This is present continuous perfect or continuous present perfect. It's a difficult verb tense, not used very often, and I use it just as an example. Has been are helping verbs that give extra information about stealing. Stealing is the action. Has been stealing. I could also say the criminal did steal. If in that example, did steal, the did would also be a helping verb, telling when in the past. The next example, the managers are meeting at noon. So meeting, coming together, is the action verb. They are meeting. You could also say the managers meet. That would be a different verb tense and only one verb. Meet, which would be action. In this case, we're using present continuous, and the are is the helping verb. So when you learn about present continuous, am is are plus action verb. The am is are helping verbs. You just don't learn that often, but in America, we learn that at our schools. And in the last sentence, I will come now, the will, telling the future, is also a helping verb, telling the time, future tense. So at the bottom of page 97, you can see a long list of verb tenses, and I put in black all the helping verbs. Is, was, should, may, will, does, did, has been, could have, would have been, will be, had been, have, should have been, will have, would have, has, should have, must have, may have, can be. And the action verb in that example is always work. So is working, was working, should work, and so on. The helping verb gives extra grammar information. Things like when, cause, so why, cause means why. About probability. Is it going to happen? Sentences like may work. The may tells maybe will, maybe won't. Extra grammar information. So look on page 98 at the example sentences. I hope you didn't have too much trouble doing those. Check your answers in the back of the book, and they will help you understand whether a verb is linking, action, or helping. So the next part of this lesson, we look at verbals. Now verbals, there's three kinds, and these are a difficult idea. In fact, they take a lot of study. This lesson only just touches on the idea. And I recommend you go look at other resources to learn the full information about verbals. There's a participle, a gerund, and an infinitive. The gerund is something the easiest, something the hardest. It depends on how you think about language. A gerund is a verb like run or eat or kick that ends with ing. So eating, running, kicking, always ing, that act as a noun. So if you are very good with parts of speech, this will be easy for you. It's easy to understand when a verb is a noun. And if it ends in ing and is a noun, it's always a gerund. Look at the examples. Running is really good exercise. The subject of the sentence, which the subject must always be a noun, is running. It's good exercise. What is running? Connected by a linking verb, is. Running is good exercise. Running is the subject and is a gerund. If you look at the next sentence, one of my friends is running a race this weekend. In that case, running also has ing, but is an action verb in the present continuous. And in that case, is a helping verb. I know this gets very confusing. Sometimes is linking. Sometimes is helping. Sometimes running is a gerund. Sometimes running is an action verb. Nobody said this would be easy. Studying English is a lot of work. And even for American school children, it takes a long time to understand the types of verbs. But when you learn them, it's very helpful for understanding how a sentence works and improving your speaking and writing. So again, the first sentence, running, is a gerund, and in the second, running is an action verb. I provide another example of this on page 99. Selling food at the market is hard work. In this case, selling food is a gerund. It's the subject. Selling food. Selling is a noun. And where do you sell? At the market. And it is hard work. Again, linking verb. Describing selling food is hard work. Difficult. In the next sentence, Roger hates selling food at the market because it is hard work. In this case, selling food is again a gerund. It's not an action verb because it's describing the second part of the sentence. Roger hates. Hates is an action verb. What does he hate? Selling food. Selling food is again a noun. So I want to show you with this example that a gerund is not always the subject. It can also be an object. An object of a sentence comes after the verb. Roger hates selling food. Subject, verb, object. And then I give more information. At the market, because it is hard work. And at the end you see it is hard work. It can be a subject. Is the linking verb. And hard work is the object. The linking verb connects the subject and the object together. So please do the 4 examples there. Check your answers in the back of the book. Don't be confused if you underline a word with an ing that's actually a verb. It happens very often. Just think about your parts of speech. Is this a noun? Is this a verb? And then you also have to think, is this an adjective? Which brings us to our next kind of verbal, a participle. A participle is a verb that acts as an adjective. You'll remember from your parts of speech that an adjective describes nouns. So, the big house, the angry man, the hot weather. Hot and angry, and those examples, are adjectives. They describe a noun. But a verb can also describe something. So in the example, the first one at the bottom of page 99, he ate fried food for dinner. Fried is an adjective, yet Fry is also a verb, isn't it? You fry food. But in this case, it's describing the food as an adjective. The food has already been fried. And this is where participles get very confusing, and why most people think participles are the most difficult kind of verbal. A participle can end with ing or can end with ed. Present participle, ing. Past participle, ed. People often describe these as verb 2 and verb 3 when you learn about them in Thai schools. Now, for this lesson, I'm not going to explain the rules for using past or present participles. That would take, some people say that takes a whole book to understand. And really the best way is just to listen to English more often. Americans really don't know when the rule is for using present or past. They just know what comes natural. And I recommend you try and understand that like a native speaker. Just listen to English, and with time you'll know whether past or present is the correct answer. So the singing birds sound beautiful. Sing is a verb. Singing is also a verb, but in this case, it's an adjective describing the action of the birds. And the ing tells you they are singing right now. The birds are singing. The singing birds. The next one, the bored staff went home. So they left already. They were bored. They're not bored anymore because they went home. So that's why there's the ed. The bored staff. Bore is usually a verb, but in this case it's acting as an adjective. The bored staff. And the last one on page 99, needing some help, my mom called me. So she needed help, needing help, and in this case this is where it gets confusing. Why ing? Why ed? So needing help, yet called is in the past tense. Again, it takes a long time to understand whether you use ing or ed. But in this case, the correct answer is ing, and it's describing mom, my mom. My mom, needing some help, called me. So you have the phrase, needing some help, as an adjective. You have a phrasing comma that you learned about earlier in the previous lesson. Then you have the subject, the verb called, and the object. Who did she call? She called me. So needing some help, my mom called me. Need is a verb, but with ing acting as an adjective, it's a participle. So please try the example sentences, the questions on page 100, and check your answers in the back of the book. The last verbal is an infinitive. An infinitive always has to and the verb with no extra ending. So talk, go, send, arrive. Never talking or sending or arrived. It's always the basic verb. So you can see the examples. To talk, to get, to sleep. He needed to talk to the coordinator. They shouted to get her attention. She wanted a place to sleep. Now an infinitive can be an adjective, can be a noun, it can be many parts of speech, but the main way to know an infinitive is to plus verb, and verb with no extra information. Talk, get, sleep. As I say in the book, if you see to eating, that's wrong. It's not an infinitive. Or to have called is also not an infinitive because the verb has been changed. So please do the exercises at the end of page 100. Check your answers. And later on, I will provide more information about verbals. There's a lot to learn. And like I said, you could fill a whole book. But I hope this gives you a good taste of how verbals work. And please continue to study about linking, action, and helping verbs. Know that helping is the most difficult, and this is the grammar information, the most difficult part of verb grammar. As always, if you have any questions, please contact my staff, and I hope you found this very interesting.